Folks, I'm Rick Atazo, and this week joining me here on LSW Insider is none other than MC Hale.
How are you doing, Rick?
I'm doing pretty well, Sean. Sean, what we're going to do with this, I guess you would call it backyard shoot interview, huh?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. I mean, you can see the majestic Manhattan. Well, it's not really lit up, but trust me, it's back there somewhere.
It's somewhere in between the trees and the dog in the backyard. We're going to take you guys into a look every week. Sean and I want to break down the status of not just LSW, but pro wrestling in general. Everybody today is an expert, the internet this, the internet that. Well, a lot of people don't realize what it takes to get involved in professional wrestling, for one, how hard it is to put a show on. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, that it's not just hanging up pieces of paper on a window that say pro wrestling, what it's like to get talent booked. And, Sean is a protege of mine now for about 4 or 5 years now. He's been around the company, and every show, a little bit more responsibility falls into his lap. And I'm going to take you through what a normal show is like. Planning a building, paying the rent, getting insurance and stuff like that. It's very tedious, and I think New Jersey, the state we run mostly in right now, we just happen to not have a athletic commission, which is a big pro, and it's also a big con. And I'm going to tell you right now, back in the day, I've been experienced with both the commission and the non-commissioned state here in New Jersey. With the commission, you would have to have a doctor. A state athletic commissioner would be at every show to collect tax on the tickets. But the doctor checked wrestling licenses,
Okay.
would do EKGs, and a lot of guys who I would deem nowadays as untrained backyarders didn't exist back then.
Okay.
So the business itself was
It's a lot more control.
a lot more control. Great way to put it, Sean. So that's one of the things. Nowadays, anybody who can rent a ring and sometimes not rent a ring could run a professional wrestling show in the state of New Jersey, which is definitely a con. LSW's been on a really good roll lately. We're just coming off the Vader show. Mm-hmm. We had the Hurricane. We've had Mikey from the Spirit Squad. Going back to last year, Sergeant Slaughter.
Yep.
And
Alpha Junior.
Alpha Junior, absolutely. Lance Inouye, also his cousin. It's going to be a huge star, by the way. And who could forget guys like Crowbar, which is one of the things we're going to get into in a minute. Is guys like Crowbar and Danny Moff, who right now is the current LSW champion, mm-hmm. And the Playas Club.
Playas Club can never count out.
They never die. I mean, it's a new reincarnation, I guess, of the Playas Club.
Yeah, they kind of, I don't know. They're like, you're right. They never go away. They've been in a couple different incarnations, but this current one, I think, is possibly more dangerous than any of the ones
Let's take
before.
the Playas Club for let's start.
Okay.
It started with superstar Dave Greco,
Mm-hmm.
Eric Andretti, and
Mm-hmm.
Justin Carino.
Right. Juicy Justin Carino.
Juicy Justin, who is now fired Justin Carino, who bit the hand that feeds him, one too many times, and we've had to part ways, and he's been future endeavored. But Dave Greco has gone on. He's retired from professional wrestling, but Dave was a huge part of the Playas Club.
Yeah.
3-time NWA television tag team champion,
Right.
along with Juicy Justin and Eric, the old Freebird rules.
Yeah.
Eric Andretti has really stepped up.
He's really risen to the occasion. I mean, a title holder himself, the first Liberty States heavyweight champion, until Danny Moff was able to take that belt off of him from a
Extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, I'll say a little bit of controversy from his own teammate, Danny DeMonto.
Now, Danny DeMonto, again, a guy who came into the Playas Club, used to be known as the bouncer of the Playas Club. This was the doorman. He kept the chicks away. He made sure that their accommodations and everything were top flight.
Right.
And became a main event professional wrestler with LSW.
Right.
Touring from Maine all the way through the whole East Coast, up and down. DeMonto's known for his suicidal dives, his hardcore wrestling. Big kid, 6'3", 270 pounds, solid. But his mouth doesn't shut up.
No.
And maybe take us through what happened to Eric Andretti real fast for the fans who didn't see it.
Sure. What happened was Andretti was the first, as I said, Liberty States heavyweight champion, and he had successfully defended his title. I believe that was against Big Game Smith James, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And the match had just ended, and people were actually starting to file out of the arena, and his friend, the cold-hearted player, Danny DeMonto, came out to congratulate his friend Eric Andretti and said, not only are you a fantastic champion, but you are probably the greatest champion this company has ever seen, and I am so confident in your abilities that I think you could take on anybody, anytime, anywhere.
And sanctioned the governing body here by saying, we're ready to defend this title anywhere.
Right.
Anytime.
Basically made it a 24/7 title.
And at that moment, Danny Moff's music hit. Eric Andretti, who'd just been through a grueling tournament that night.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sorry, the tournament was
The
the month
tournament
before.
was that crowned him the champion, but I mean, still.
Just a
Smith
grueling
James
matchup
might
with
as well
Smith
be a
James,
tournament.
future WWE star,
Yeah.
Smith James. Grueling, brutal, heavy, big hitting matchup. And Danny Moff comes out and just drops him on his head with a burning hammer, 1, 2, 3, and a new champion is crowned.
Possibly the shortest match that we've seen in Liberty States.
Definitely the shortest title match in the history of either JCW, LSW.
Yeah.
And we have a new champion in Danny Moff. Who,
Now that's not to take anything away from Andretti, because I mean, after that big match, I don't know that he could have properly defended himself against
absolutely.
anybody.
But again, it's Danny DeMonto's mouth, who, I guess we're going to say it, he wrote a check that his ass couldn't cash.
Yeah.
And Eric Andretti is now a former LSW heavyweight champion. And let's get to the current champion, Danny Moff.
Bayonne Badass.
The Bayonne Badass. Danny Moff started with me in 1999. Jersey Championship Wrestling with a partner named Monster Mac. He was Mafia. They were known as the Hit Squad. Up and down the East Coast with companies like Ring of Honor, JAP, Combat Zone. The Hit Squad were the best independent tag team in the late 90s, early 2000s, anywhere in this country. Our home arena was in Lodi, New Jersey. We used to call it the house JCW built. Just a little pun on words, guys. It wasn't really that special. But the 300 to 400 people that would come every month, if you walked in that building and the minute Snoop Dogg's Pump Pump, the music hit, 400 people jumped to their feet, they screamed, they yelled, and my famous line, which I've said 1,000 times, you could not tell that it was the Hit Squad or Hulk Hogan who came through that curtain, because that's how over the Hit Squad was in JCW. Danny Moff broke away from the tag team scene and became an independent superstar. For people who don't know it, he's a very close personal friend of mine. I am very biased towards Danny. But Danny's taken his career to a whole nother level. And he has to be the most popular babyface I've ever seen in LSW.
Yeah, and as someone who came in at the time when the Escort was the champion, you couldn't get to him because of the crowded kids that were around him wanting to get pictures and autographs. And for Danny Moff to come in and pin someone like that, 1, 2, 3, and then get the kids on his side, I don't think we have a babyface like that quite at that level.
No, definitely not. And Danny Moff's got some big title matches coming up in the next couple of weeks. Just Incredible's kind of on his card. Andretti has a rematch card that he can use at any time.
Right.
He has a rematch clause for the championship. But there's a feud out there that we haven't seen here in LSW, and that's the Dan versus Dan feud, which is Moff versus DeMonto, which is in ICW in New York, which has been in JAP. These two generally do not like each other. They do not get along. And Moff won up DeMonto by getting to Andretti because of DeMonto's mouth. And this might lead to something very physical in the near future here in LSW.
Now, as powerful as Danny Moff can be, when you're going against DeMonto, you're not going against just DeMonto, because he brings with him Andretti and now Darling.
Well, Darling's a key factor here because, people look at Darling as, I look at him as kind of like the Michael Hayes of the group. He's a fantastic interview. He's the best looking one out of 3. The women are all over the place, drop. We go out to dinner and he got 6 phone numbers shoved in his pocket before he gets to a table. But he's also a badass and he's a methodical prick in plain English. And he's the X factor of the group. He's only been around a couple months. We don't know what to expect from him. But it's that sinister side of him that reminds me a lot of Michael P.S. Hayes.
Yeah, he seems to have that outward demeanor is actually, it's friendly. It's not, it doesn't seem to quite fit with the Playas Club. But when he gets, we saw when he got into the ring in the last show, it was
all business.
Yeah,
all business.
There was no there was no handshakes, there was no anything like that. He was a member of the Playas Club, and he was there, kick ass and take names.
Right. Now, we're going to move on a little bit right now. We're going to discuss something called the Jersey J Cup, which was a tournament I held back in the late 90s, early 2000s, with winners such as Low Key, CM Punk was in the tournament, Reckless Youth, Colt Cabana, American Dragon, Bryan Daniels, who went on to become Daniel Bryan, Colt Cabana, I believe I just mentioned, Billy Fives, the list goes on and on, Super Dragon, Jay Lethal, Homicide. This was
the who's who.
This was the who's who of the tournament. So I'm going to give you a little scoop right now. I haven't even discussed it with you.
Okay.
We're going to come back in September of 2013 at the home arena of LSW, Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey, and we're going to have the first annual Dennis Corluzzo Cup.
Okay.
We're going to come back.
I like it.
We're going to come back to the tournament format. It's going to be slightly different, and by slightly different, Dennis was slightly different. Anybody who knows him knows that Dennis was into the biggest guys in the world and the littlest midgets on the card. Everything in the world was an oddity to Dennis. If he could find a freak, he enjoyed it. So, I am going to announce right now that we're going to crown the first ever LSW Extreme Championship. And by extreme, I don't mean violent tables and chairs and ladders. Mm-hmm. Every match must be decided by pinfall or submission. There is no DQs.
Okay.
Every single person in the entire country is eligible for the tournament. So that goes from Short Steve Slam Sampson all the way up to the Big Show. You could be 7'8", you could be 3'7". If you like to enter the tournament, all you need to do is send me an email at nwarickyO@yahoo.com or hit me up on Facebook on our Facebook page, Liberty States Wrestling. Mm-hmm. We are going to have the first ever Corluzzo Cup, crowning the first ever LSW Extreme Champion of the world. I can't put a heavyweight in there or a lightweight or a woman, and that's right. I am going to open the tournament up to women.
Wow. Okay. Now I have to ask: is this going to be? This is a one-night tournament.
One-night tournament.
So the winner of
will be crowned on September 13th.
Okay. The winner of the Corluzzo Cup is going to have to go through multiple matches in that night.
Multiple matches, or I don't know. Come down and check it out. Maybe we're going to do a battle royal. I'm not really sure yet because I'm tinkering with a couple different ideas of who's going to be in it and when. But I would say probably multiple matches to start.
Okay. I'm really going to be interested to see how the seeding for that goes. How are we going to be drawing names out of a hat?
It's going to be seeding.
It's going to be seeding.
It's going to be seedy. There's definitely going to be a little something up my sleeve because if you knew Dennis, I'll tell you. If you don't know who Dennis Corluzzo is, go to Wikipedia, type it in, then go to YouTube, then call me up and we'll talk because I have more Dennis stories than probably anybody not named Fierro or Corluzzo.
You spoke about Dennis Corluzzo a lot on your shoot interview.
My shoot interview, which you could pick up at, give the website.
It's going to be libertystatesnj.com. We're going to be having the Ricky O shoot interview available soon. Folks, I'm going to tell you, we're going to go maybe about 2 more minutes here, but every single week on the Facebook page, on the website, we're going to be doing a little 15-minute talk here, just a little casual chatter. I'd like you to send us an email at lswwrestlingnj.com. Address it to myself or Sean. All our email addresses are up there. Mine is still NWA Ricky O. I need to change it. I've had it for 10 years. I really don't want to change it. Be careful, you get that page ripped out.
I'm gonna get sued for having an NWA email. But NWARickyO@yahoo.com. Mm-hmm. Feel free to send me any questions about my career as a promoter, as a TV writer, the guys I've dealt with, anything. Rock and Roll Express, the Road Warriors, Dusty Rhodes, Nikita Koloff, Jim Cornette, Bob Backlund, Tony Atlas, Coco Beware, Ric Flair. These are all guys that I've had in LSW or JCW and have great road stories about. And if you check out my shoot interviews, I have 2, one that's a little older and one that Sean just conducted a couple weeks ago. We're going to be discussing a lot of that. And what we're going to do, folks, is every week we're going to sit down and talk about the current state of LSW, and then we're going to talk about future stars and where they would have fit 10 years ago. And then we're going to take the stars of 10 or 15 years ago and see how they fit now.
Okay.
So, with that, I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us for the first installment of LSW Insider. I'd like to thank MC Hale for coming here tonight to film. And like I said, hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on YouTube every single week right here on this channel. Send us your comments, your questions, let us know what you want to do. And June 15th, we have Tommy Dreamer, Just Incredible, Brutus Beefcake, Greg Valentine, Crowbar, Danny Mouth, Bandito Jr., and the rest of the Players Club, Oakland, New Jersey. See you there.